What happens when a Hollywood star tries to have an honest conversation about faith and family, only to be publicly ridiculed and attacked on live television? In just 36 seconds, one host's shocking comment would turn a simple interview into an explosive confrontation that ended with security escorting a guest off the set for the very first time in the show's history. Mark Wahlberg walked onto the View set that morning expecting a normal promotional interview. He had a new movie coming out, and his team had scheduled him for what they thought would be a friendly chat with the panel. The audience clapped as he made his way to the guest chair, waving and smiling like he always did. He was wearing a simple blue button-down shirt and jeans, looking relaxed and ready to talk about his latest project. The first few minutes went exactly as planned. Whoopi Goldberg asked him about the movie, about working with the director, about the stunts he had to perform. Mark answered every question with enthusiasm, telling funny stories from the set and making the audience laugh. Everything seemed perfectly normal. The energy was light and fun, but then Joy Behar leaned forward in her chair, and the temperature in the room suddenly changed. "So, Mark," Joy said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, "I've been reading about how you wake up at like 3 in the morning to pray every single day. That's pretty intense, don't you think?" Mark nodded, still friendly and open. "Yeah, my faith is really important to me. It's what keeps me grounded, you know? With everything going on in my life, in my career, having that time with God in the morning just sets my whole day right." "But 3 in the morning?" Joy pressed. And there was something in her tone now, something sharp. "I mean, that seems a bit extreme. What are you praying about for that long? Are you asking God to forgive you for all those terrible movies you made in the 90s? The audience let out an uncomfortable laugh. Mark's smile tightened a little, but he stayed calm. "Well, I pray for my family, for my wife and kids. I pray for guidance, for strength to be a better person. It's not really about the time. It's about making that connection, you know?" Joy wasn't letting it go. She turned to the other hosts with an exaggerated look of confusion. "I just don't understand these celebrity religious types. Like, you're a millionaire living in a mansion, Mark. What exactly do you need to pray about? World peace? Or just which Ferrari to drive that day?" The audience went quiet. You could feel the shift in the room. This wasn't playful anymore. This was something else. Mark sat up a little straighter. "I think everyone can benefit from prayer, Joy. Rich, poor, doesn't matter. We all have struggles. We all need something bigger than ourselves to believe in. But you have to admit," Joy continued, leaning back with her arms crossed, "it's a little hypocritical, right? You made your fortune playing violent criminals and tough guys, beating people up on screen, and now you want us to believe you're this super religious family man? Which one is the real you?" Mark took a deep breath. His jaw clenched for just a second before he answered. "I never said I was perfect, Joy. That's actually the whole point of faith. I've made mistakes in my life. I've done things I'm not proud of, but I'm trying every day to be better, to do better. That's what my faith gives me. A chance to grow." "A chance to grow," Joy repeated, mocking his tone slightly. "Or a chance to rebrand yourself as some kind of saint so people forget about your past?" Whoopi jumped in, trying to redirect. "Okay, let's talk about the new movie. Mark, your character in this film is actually very different from your usual roles, right?" But Joy wasn't done. She turned back to Mark, ignoring Whoopi completely. "I'm just saying, Mark, it's very convenient. You do whatever you want, you live however you want, and then you just pray it all away in the morning. Must be nice to have that kind of get-out-of-jail-free card." Mark's face was calm, but his voice had an edge to it now. "It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card, Joy. It's about accountability. It's about trying to live according to values that matter. Faith isn't easy. It requires discipline, sacrifice, commitment." "Sacrifice?" Joy laughed, actually laughed out loud. "You're sacrificing what exactly? Sleep? Oh no, how will you survive on only 7 hours instead of 8? Meanwhile, there are real people out there struggling to feed their families, and you're worried about waking up early to talk to your imaginary friend." The room went dead silent. Even the other hosts looked shocked. Sunny Hostin's mouth was literally hanging open. Sarah Haynes looked down at her cards like she wanted to disappear. Whoopi closed her eyes for a moment, like she was bracing for impact. Mark stared at Joy for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and controlled, but you could hear the anger underneath. "Imaginary friend? Is that really what you just said?" "Oh, come on, Mark." Joy waved her hand dismissively. "Don't act all offended. I'm just being honest here. You pray to something you can't see, can't hear, can't prove exists. That's literally the definition of imaginary. You know what, Joy? Mark said, his Boston accent getting thicker the way it always did when he was upset. I came here today to talk about my work, to have a respectful conversation. But you've done nothing but mock me, mock my beliefs, mock everything that's important to me since the second you opened your mouth. Joy rolled her eyes. Oh, please, don't play the victim card. You're a big tough guy, right? You can't handle a little questioning? Questioning? Mark's voice rose slightly. You're not questioning anything. You're attacking. There's a difference. You've been sitting there with this smug look on your face, acting like you're better than me because I believe in God and you don't. I never said I don't believe in God, Joy shot back. Well, you just called him my imaginary friend, so forgive me for being confused, Mark said. And you know what? I don't care if you believe or not. That's your choice. But you don't get to sit there and disrespect my faith, disrespect billions of people around the world who find comfort and meaning in their religion just because you think you're smarter than everyone else. Joy's face was turning red now. I never said I was smarter than anyone. You didn't have to say it, Mark replied. It's dripping from every word out of your mouth. This whole condescending attitude, like anyone who believes in something spiritual, must be stupid or brainwashed or looking for an easy way out. Whoopi tried again to intervene. Okay, guys, let's just take a breath here and... But Joy wasn't backing down. You want to know what I really think, Mark? I think you use your religion as a shield. I think you wrap yourself up in this holy image so people won't criticize you. And when someone does criticize you, you cry persecution. It's transparent and it's manipulative. Mark stood up, just stood right up out of his chair. The audience gasped. I'm not doing this, he said firmly. I'm not going to sit here and be insulted on live television. I came here as a guest, to promote a movie, to have a conversation, not to be your punching bag. Oh, so now you're leaving? Joy said with a bitter laugh. Very mature, Mark. Real tough guy behavior right there. Mature? Mark turned to face her fully. You want to talk about maturity? A mature person doesn't ambush their guest with personal attacks. A mature person doesn't mock someone's deeply held beliefs on national television. A mature person has something called respect. Joy stood up too now, her voice getting louder. Respect? You want respect? How about respecting your audience enough to be real with them instead of hiding behind this fake holy man act? Fake? Mark's voice was incredulous. Lady, I've been going to church since I was a kid. I've been open about my faith for years. There's nothing fake about it. Just because you can't understand why someone would dedicate themselves to something bigger than their own ego doesn't mean it's not real. Don't you dare call me egotistical, Joy snapped. I'm not the one who wakes up at 3 a.m. to make sure everyone knows how devout I am. That's called attention-seeking, Mark. I was asked about my routine in an interview, Mark shot back. I didn't hold a press conference about my prayer schedule. You're the one who brought it up today to make fun of me. The other hosts were all talking at once now, trying to calm things down. Whoopi was saying something about taking a commercial break. Sunny was trying to get Joy to sit down. Sarah was attempting to change the subject. But Mark and Joy were locked in, neither one backing down. You know what your problem is? Joy said, pointing her finger at him. You can dish it out, but you can't take it. You've spent your whole career playing these tough characters, but the second someone challenges you on your beliefs, you fall apart. I'm not falling apart, Mark said through gritted teeth. I'm standing up for myself, something you clearly have a problem with because you're used to bullying people on this show and having them just take it. Bullying? Joy's voice went up an octave. I'm a bully now? For asking questions? For having an opinion? For attacking someone's faith unprovoked? Mark shouted. Yes, Joy, that's bullying. You didn't ask questions, you made accusations. You didn't share an opinion, you hurled insults. And you did it all with this self-righteous attitude, like you're some kind of moral authority. I never claimed to be a moral authority, Joy said. Then stop acting like one, Mark fired back. Stop sitting up there on your high horse judging everyone who doesn't think exactly like you do. You talk about tolerance and acceptance until someone mentions God, and then suddenly you're the most intolerant person in the room. Joy's face was bright red now. How dare you? How dare you come on this show and accuse me of intolerance? I've fought for civil rights, for women's rights, for equality my entire career. And that's great, Mark said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Really, congratulations. But apparently religious freedom doesn't make your list of rights worth fighting for. Oh, give me a break with the religious freedom argument, Joy scoffed. Nobody's stopping you from praying, Mark. I just think it's ridiculous that you expect everyone to take you seriously when you talk about your invisible sky daddy like he's real. The room went completely silent. Even the cameramen seemed to freeze. Whoopi actually put her head in her hands. You could see Sarah Haynes mouth the word no silently. Mark's voice, when he spoke, was quiet but intense. Did you just call God my invisible sky daddy? Joy shrugged, defiant. If the shoe fits. Mark shook his head slowly, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. You know what? I've met a lot of disrespectful people in my life. I grew up in a tough neighborhood. I've worked in Hollywood for 30 years. I've seen and heard it all. But you, he pointed at Joy, you might be the most disrespectful person I've ever encountered. And the worst part is, you think you're the good guy here. You think you're being brave and honest, but really, you're just being mean. Mean? Joy laughed harshly. Oh, poor baby. Did the mean lady hurt your feelings by not pretending your superstitions are profound? Superstitions, Mark repeated flatly. So that's what we're calling Christianity now? A superstition? The faith that billions of people around the world follow, that's built hospitals and schools and charities, that's given hope to people in their darkest moments? That's just a superstition to you? When you boil it down, yeah, Joy said with a shrug. It's a belief in something with no evidence. That's a superstition. Sorry if the truth hurts. Mark grabbed his jacket from the back of the chair. I'm done. I'm actually done with this conversation. Where are you going? Joy demanded. We're still on the air. I don't care, Mark said, putting on his jacket. I'm not staying here to be verbally abused by someone who clearly has no respect for me or anyone who thinks differently than her. Whoopi stood up. Mark, please, let's just... But Mark was already walking toward the edge of the stage. A producer rushed over, trying to stop him. Mr. Wahlberg, we're live. You can't just leave. Watch me, Mark said, not slowing down. Joy called after him, her voice mocking. That's right, run away. Very Christian of you, Mark. Didn't Jesus say something about turning the other cheek? Mark stopped. He turned around slowly and walked back toward the table, and for a second it looked like he might actually explode. But instead, he spoke very calmly, very clearly. You want to quote Jesus to me? Fine. Jesus also flipped tables in the temple when people were being disrespectful in God's house. He stood up to hypocrites and called them out. He didn't just accept abuse quietly. So, yeah, I'm leaving. Because staying here and listening to you insult my faith, insult me, insult everything I believe in, that's not turning the other cheek. That's just letting you win, and I'm not going to do that. Joy started to respond, but Mark held up his hand. I'm not finished. You sit here every day on the show and you talk about kindness and compassion and understanding. But you don't actually believe in any of that, do you? You only believe in it for people who agree with you. Everyone else is fair game. Everyone else deserves to be mocked and ridiculed. Well, congratulations, Joy. You got your big moment. You got to tear down someone's faith on national television. I hope it was worth it. He turned to leave again, and this time Joy stood up and shouted after him. You're being a child. This is what happens when someone challenges your worldview, and you can't handle it. Mark spun around one more time. My worldview? Lady, you haven't challenged anything. You've just been nasty. There's a difference between intellectual debate and personal attacks, and you clearly don't know the difference. I've been asking legitimate questions, Joy insisted. No, Mark said firmly. You've been asking loaded questions designed to make me look stupid. Every single thing you've said has been dripping with contempt. From the second you brought up my prayer routine, you've had this agenda to tear me down, and I'm not going to participate in it anymore. The producers were in full panic mode now. You could see them talking frantically into their headsets. Security guards were starting to move toward the stage. Whoopi was trying to get everyone to sit down. The other hosts looked mortified. Joy wasn't backing down, though. You can't handle criticism. That's your problem. You've been coddled your whole career, and now someone's finally being honest with you, and you can't take it. Honest? Mark laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think what you're doing is honesty? Calling someone's God an imaginary friend is honesty? Calling their faith a superstition is honesty? No, Joy, that's called being cruel, and hiding behind the word honest doesn't make it okay. I'm not being cruel, Joy protested. I'm being real. Someone has to say what everyone's thinking. Everyone's not thinking that, Mark shot back. That's what you think. You're projecting your own beliefs onto everyone else and assuming we all secretly agree with you. But we don't. Millions of people disagree with you, and they're not stupid or brainwashed or delusional. They just see the world differently than you do, and that should be okay. But to you, it's not okay. To you, anyone who believes in God is an idiot who needs to be educated by the brilliant Joy Behar. Joy's voice was shaking now with anger. Don't you put words in my mouth. I never called anyone an idiot. You didn't have to. Mark's voice rose again. It's been implied in every single word you've said. The condescension, the mockery, the dismissiveness. You've made it very clear that you think I'm beneath you intellectually because I pray. A security guard touched Mark's elbow gently. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the stage. Mark looked at the guard, then back at Joy. Don't worry, I'm going. But before I do, I want everyone watching to know something. I don't regret my faith. I don't regret talking about it publicly. And I definitely don't regret standing up for it today. What I do regret is coming on this show thinking I'd be treated with basic human decency. That was my mistake. Oh, please, Joy said, rolling her eyes. You're not a martyr, Mark. Stop acting like one. And you're not a journalist, Mark replied. You're a talk show host who uses her platform to bully guests who don't share your politics or your beliefs. That's all you are. Joy gasped, genuinely offended. How dare you? I've been in this business for 40 years. Then maybe it's time to learn some manners, Mark said coldly. The security guard was more insistent now. Sir, please, we need you to leave. Mark nodded. I'm leaving. Trust me, I'm leaving. He started walking off the stage, the guard beside him. Joy called after him one more time. This is so unprofessional. You can't just walk off in the middle of an interview. Mark stopped at the edge of the stage and turned back one final time. His voice was calm now, almost sad. You know what, Joy? I feel sorry for you. I really do. Because you're so wrapped up in being right, in proving your point, that you've forgotten how to just be kind to people. And that's a lonely way to live. With that, he walked off the stage completely. The audience sat in stunned silence. The cameras kept rolling, capturing Joy's shocked face, Whoopi's exhausted expression, and the complete chaos of the remaining hosts trying to figure out what to do next. Joy tried to recover, turning to the camera with forced confidence. Well, that was interesting. Apparently Mark Wahlberg doesn't like being asked tough questions, but Whoopi cut her off. Those weren't tough questions, Joy. That was an attack, and you know it. Joy turned to Whoopi, betrayed. Are you seriously taking his side right now? I'm not taking sides, Whoopi said firmly. But what just happened here was not okay. We invited that man onto our show as a guest, and you spent the entire time mocking his religion. That's not what we do here. I was challenging him, Joy insisted. No, Sonny Hostin spoke up quietly. You were insulting him. There's a difference. Joy looked around at her co-hosts, seeing that none of them were backing her up. I can't believe this. I can't believe you're all ganging up on me for asking questions. You called God an imaginary friend, Sarah Haynes said softly. On live television, to a practicing Catholic. What did you think was going to happen? Joy threw up her hands. So we're not allowed to question religion anymore? Is that where we're at? You can question religion, Whoopi said tiredly, but you have to do it respectfully. You have to remember that the person you're talking to has feelings, has deeply held beliefs that matter to them. You can't just steamroll over someone's faith and expect them to smile and take it. He's a celebrity, Joy said defensively. He can handle it. Being a celebrity doesn't mean you deserve to be disrespected, Sonny said. It doesn't mean you check your right to dignity at the door when you come on our show. The producers were frantically signaling for a commercial break. You could see the panic in their eyes. This was a disaster, and everyone knew it. Joy crossed her arms, defensive and angry. Fine, I'm the bad guy, as usual. God forbid I have an opinion that goes against the grain. Having an opinion is fine, Whoopi said, looking directly at Joy. But the way you expressed it today crossed a line, and I think you know that. The show finally cut to commercial, but the damage was done. The conversation that was supposed to be a simple movie promotion had turned into a full-blown confrontation that ended with a guest walking off the set for the first time in the show's history. Backstage, Mark was talking to his publicist, his face still flushed with anger. I tried, he was saying. I really tried to stay calm, to be respectful, but she just kept pushing and pushing. His publicist nodded sympathetically. I know. Everyone saw what happened. You had every right to leave. I've done hundreds of interviews, Mark continued, running his hand through his hair. Hundreds. And I've never walked off a set before. But I wasn't going to sit there and let her call my faith a superstition, call God my imaginary friend. There's a limit, you know? There has to be a limit to what you're willing to tolerate. Meanwhile, back on the set during the commercial break, the hosts were in a heated discussion. Joy was defending herself while the others tried to explain why what she did was wrong. "I stand by everything I said," Joy insisted. "Maybe I was a little harsh, but I was being honest about how I feel." "Honesty without compassion is just cruelty," Whoopi said. "And today, you were cruel. Admit it." Joy's eyes welled up with tears, but they were tears of anger, not sadness. "I won't admit that. I won't. I asked questions that made him uncomfortable, and he couldn't handle it. That's on him, not me." "Joy," Sonny said gently, "he didn't leave because he was uncomfortable. He left because you were attacking him. You attacked his faith, his character, his sincerity. You questioned his motives, mocked his beliefs, and belittled something that's clearly very important to him. And then you acted surprised when he got upset. People have challenged my beliefs before," Joy argued, "and I don't storm off. Because nobody has ever called your beliefs superstitious or imaginary on national television," Sarah pointed out. "What you did to Mark today, nobody's ever done to you, so you don't know how you'd react." The stage manager called out that they were coming back from commercial in 30 seconds. The hosts scrambled back to their seats, trying to compose themselves. But the energy had completely shifted. What was supposed to be a fun, lighthearted show had turned into something ugly and uncomfortable. When they came back on air, Whoopi addressed the camera directly. "We want to apologize to our viewers and to Mark Wahlberg for what just happened. Things got heated, and we're sorry you had to witness that." Joy sat silently, her arms still crossed, clearly not agreeing with the apology, but smart enough not to argue on air. The rest of the show was awkward and tense. None of the hosts could focus properly. The audience was uncomfortable. And social media was already exploding with clips of the confrontation, most of them siding heavily with Mark. What started as a simple promotional interview had turned into a lightning rod moment about respect, faith, and the limits of acceptable discourse on television. Mark had come to talk about a movie. Instead, he'd ended up defending his fundamental beliefs against someone who seemed determined to tear them down. And when he finally said enough was enough and walked away, he did so with his dignity intact, leaving behind a host who seemed unable to understand why calling someone's God imaginary might be considered offensive. The incident would spark conversations for weeks about tolerance, about respecting religious beliefs even when you don't share them, and about the responsibility that comes with having a platform. But in that moment, all anyone could talk about was the fact that Mark Wahlberg, one of Hollywood's biggest stars, had been pushed so far that he did something he'd never done before. He walked away,